As an action-focused, dialogue-light brawler, Sifu has limited opportunities to dive into its narrative and themes. The game's narrative progression derives from the player unearthing a mystery. This allots the prologue with several responsibilities. To be effective, it must convey character motivation, create intrigue, and introduce the game's core mechanics. The game begins on a cold open. As the camera settles behind the player character, they face a nondescript building. The entire prologue develops player curiosity in a similar way: the absence of information. The game will pause to teach the player specific button prompts. Important aspects of gameplay like parrying, light attacks, and finishers are all communicated in this space. This next room allows the player to practice the skills they just learned, practice parrying, practice light attacking, etc., while also dealing with a crowd of enemies at the same time. And while it is very easy, that gradual build-up in complexity is essential to keep things as intuitive as possible for the player. This whole section succeeds in two ways. First, it excites the player about the potential of the game's combat. At the same time, it cements the narrative role of the player character as this master martial artist.
Get out of my way.
Leave him to me.
As the player continues to progress, areas will alternate between similar tutorial arenas and tension-building exchanges. Effectively, the prologue layers, amplifying the mystery of your presence of what's going on, and introducing key gameplay elements. Of course, the prologue can't last forever. The final section occurs at the peak of the dojo, as the player character, now revealed to be
Yang, of course,
confronts the dojo's leader. The leader laments ever teaching him and asserts,
"This time I will do what I must."
a vague history, but obvious bad blood. Mechanically, this confrontation demonstrates the flow of boss battles and their stages. Each boss has two distinct phases and requires the breaking down of their structure in order to progress from one phase to the other. Unbeknownst to the player, the entire prologue functions as a miniaturized version of the game's levels. Multiple group encounters which then culminate into a boss confrontation. But the atmosphere and the combat made that structural tutorialization as unintrusive as possible. The leader's defeat creates the most interesting narrative moment. As the leader falls, the screen suddenly whips onto a child hiding within a nearby cupboard. This is the actual player character. The player had been going through the prologue as the game's final boss this entire time. Their actions created the very night that inspired the protagonist's quest for revenge. This sudden shift in perspective strengthens the prologue's narrative weight. The loss and anger of the protagonist now feels like the players because they've gone through it, they participated in it. The players' accumulated questions now align with the protagonists. Neither fully understand the context of this night. All they know is that it's personal. This single-minded quest for vengeance gradually becomes challenged as the player progresses through. To maximize the impact of that change, Sifu must make the player as blinded and ignorant as the protagonist, and the prologue does precisely that.